So this bar talk is called Beyond Marketing, Experience Reimagined. And we have two great panelists here, Tom Bover and Angel Vaccaro. I will let you guys introduce yourself. Angel, why don't you start off?
Awesome, thank you, Tim. Angel Vaccaro, I am part of our Deloitte Digital practice. I lead Hux, our human experience offering, and I'm really pumped to be here today. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Tom Bover, I'm with Deloitte Digital. I am the Chief Product Officer for Hux.
Great. Well, welcome. Let's start off with a little bit of perspective about the market and what we're seeing and why we're thinking marketing needs to be reimagined, right? Experience needs to be reimagined. So we've talked a lot today about customer expectations changing and growing. Angel, are you seeing that in the market today, and how is that impacting marketing marketing organizations?
Great question, Tim. We've been hearing this, right, throughout the day, throughout the week, and it's not new to many of us, right? But more than ever, customer expectations are continuing to increase and evolve on a daily, if not minute basis, right? Customers want to feel valued. They want, as you guys talked about earlier in one of your bar talks, they want that two-way connection. They want to be listened to. They want to be treated almost as a friend would treat you, right? Know me, know what I want, know when I want it. I know that's how I expect. I'm kind of a pain in the butt from a customer perspective. My expectations are very high. And on top of that, we find that emotions, right, are driving our decisions, right? So customers are in charge, customers have very high expectations, and they're making their decisions based on emotion. In fact, if I were to ask you and poll the audience right now, who your favorite brand was, 60% of you would say that your favorite brand is whoever you have the deepest emotional connection. Right? Regardless of the products they serve, the products they sell you, what you buy from them is based on that emotional connection. And when we think about brands that are able to create these emotional connections and brands that are able to deliver on them, they're creating real value for themselves and real value for customers. You've all seen the numbers, right? 15 times a customer will recommend a brand 15 times more if they have an emotional connection, right? They'll purchase 7 times more if they have an emotional connection with the brand. And not only that, but in addition to the repeat purchases and the loyalty, those customers are actually worth more. Their value is 50% higher than other customers if they have that emotional connection. The challenge that brings is who's going to deliver on that, right? Who's responsible in the organization to actually deliver on that? Because most of the companies out there today, except for maybe digital natives, are still very siloed in how they operate. So most companies that we see are actually putting the CMO in charge of not only creating those exceptional human experiences, but then executing and delivering them.
Yeah, so that's a big job for CMOs. And Tom, how has the role of CMO changed now that these new expectations have been placed on them?
Yeah. Well, in the past, the role of the CMO was more focused, right? They were focused on things like branding and market strategy and more traditional media channels like TV, radio, print, right? But today, where CMOs are responsible for that end-to-end customer journey, it's not just those traditional touch points, but it's new digital touch points where there's a lot more data to make decisions on, right? Yeah. So the majority of CMOs are responsible for that end-to-end experience from awareness through loyalty, right? And their purview has to change from just top of funnel to really working closer with sales and service as well. Yeah. And CMOs know this, right? Like 47% of respondents to our survey say that they'll abandon a brand if they have a poor, impersonal, or frustrating experience, right? And CMOs know this, so now nearly a third of their marketing budgets are going towards MarTech, right? And they're doing this to drive the customer experience and focusing on things like creating a single view of the customer, using machine learning and AI to make smarter decisions and automate. They're aligning the CX vision across the organization, and they're unifying their delivery channels so that they're having that consistent experience across all touch points.
So it sounds like they know a lot of what they need to do, right? But the question really is, with things moving so fast, Angel, are they really equipped to make this change right now?
I mean, that's why, that's exactly the point, right? And why you see all the energy even here, right, this week around how to do this. It's not easy. So CMOs are being given this responsibility, and they're finding out, like, this is really hard, right? The CMO's role, as you talk about, is like continue to evolve, right? Thinking about just managing brand strategies, managing agencies. Now they're responsible for, really owning and delivering that experience. They need to understand technology. They need to understand data. They need new relationships with their peers. And it's also about like leadership and governance as well. So I would say, if we're going to bucket maybe some of the key things that make it so hard, you've got to have that top-down leadership, right? That top-down leadership commitment and the governance in place to actually be able to go with fortitude to drive this transformation. How many times have you sat in a room with your executive team or even your peers, right? And you're trying to drive forward CX transformation. You're trying to create, priorities around creating these human experiences. And everyone says, I'm in, I'm ready, we're ready to go, let's do it. And then fire drills come up, or budget cuts happen, or other priorities come up. So it's really having that fortitude and that determination and that dedication and commitment around this to focus on it. And then I think another challenge that we're seeing, and you see a lot of this today, right, and yesterday with the conversations of these customer data platforms and building CDPs and whatnot, right? I mean, at the core, creating these experiences is data, right? If you don't have the data right and you don't have access to the data, good luck in trying to create these experiences. Not only are companies siloed today on how they handle data internally, right? So the call center, the call center optimizes for the call center data. The store optimizes for the store data. I had a conversation with a couple CMOs recently of large retailers, and they were like, Angel, we were built on platforms and systems and technologies that were never meant to speak to each other, and they definitely were never meant to operate in real time, right? So it's a huge challenge, right, for CMOs. And I think that the good news is that they've got their peers and other executive team, to help support them in this change, because it's definitely not a one man or a one woman job that can get this done.
Yeah. You talked a lot about relationships, and breaking down those silos requires the relationships the CMO with his or her peers to actually break down those silos, right? Technology can help with the connective tissue, but the relationships have to be able to activate the change, right? So let's talk about one relationship in particular. What does this mean now with the relationship between the CMO and the CIO specifically?
Yeah. Well, in the past, CIOs and CMOs have had different priorities, right? But they have to work together to build this customer experience that'll benefit both of them and the company, right? If you look in the past, they have separate and conflicting agendas. You have the CMO is focused on protecting and enhancing the brand. You have the CIO who's focused on curbing risk and protecting the company, right? You have the CMO who's trying to build a relationship with customers and gain the trust, get them to trust the brand. You have the CIO who's trying to analyze every interaction the brand has with people and make sure they can be trusted. And the CMO is looking to understand why their marketing message is getting through. CIO doesn't care about that, right? So from a product perspective, like being a chief product officer trying to work with them, that partnership is critical, that they move beyond marketing and really drive winning experiences, right? Without that partnership, that single view of the customer can't happen. But when they work together, we can understand customers across all the touch points and have better data to drive marketing at the same time. And when their organizations are aligned, you have marketing, you have data and technology all working together, you have both a better employee experience and better customer experience.
So let's dig a little bit deeper on what you said about the fact that they've got competing priorities. So if they do have competing priorities, how do you start the conversation to get aligned on the relationship? Are there specific areas where they should partner on first?
Yeah, we find there's three key areas, refer to them as the 3 Ds: data, decisioning, and delivery, right? With data, it's all about bringing together data from multiple channels and functions into whatever the organization's cloud provider of choice, right? To get a single view of the customer, stitching together first, second, third-party data, and then really focusing on the data that's really going to drive the best decisions, right? With decisioning, it's about using AI and machine learning to understand how, when, and what content to serve each consumer to best engage with them, right? right? And then with delivery, the third D, it's about, they really have to work together to unify the experience across multiple touch points that the customers have with them and become truly omni-channel, right? And that's how we deliver those real-time, personalized experiences across the entire journey to not only attract them, but to retain them.
So we've talked a lot about all the things that have to be done in a marketing organization and the leadership that has to go around with driving those change, organizational change, technology improvements, process changes. It's a lot for everybody to take on. Angel, what do you say to organizations or CMOs that are looking to start? Where would they start? How would they start?
Yeah, another great question, Tim, because that's where you're full on today. This is actually where we see most companies fall down, is they try to boil the ocean, right? They get overwhelmed with, where do I start? I have all this data. I have all these problems with my customer experience. I have disconnected journeys. And they go into analysis paralysis, and they then, okay, let's go build a CDP. So, which is a good idea, but they try to capture every single data source, and they spend a year doing design work, and they haven't moved the needle at all, right? Or they spend a year doing journey mapping. Right. We've seen that before, right? And great, you've got a binder of journey maps, but you have nothing to show for it, right? So I think the key thing is there's such low-hanging fruit in most organizations that I've seen. I mean, you've heard some of the data across the 3 bar talks today, right? So, less than 10% of companies even use emotional data at all for their creating these experiences. Less than 30% of companies actually integrate, social data, experience data, operational data, et cetera, right? So the bars, there's low-hanging fruit to be had. I think, it's really about picking a couple of specific use cases or journeys for your organization. So if you're a telco company, maybe it's the upgrade process. Pick the upgrade process. Figure out the pain points there. How to reimagine it. Pick if you're a laptop, if you're a computer company, right? The purchase process. I want to buy a new computer. Pick a journey. Understand specifically what data elements drive that experience and create loyalty, and then try to iterate on it, try to improve on it, right? The key is not to kind of reinvent the entire experience across every journey, across every persona. It's understanding where there is that low-hanging fruit, making an impact on it quickly, showing quick momentum, and then letting that momentum kind of fuel the rest of the transformation. Not only do you start getting kind of quick wins, you start bringing the rest of the organization with you. You get people excited. You start creating change agents to drive this transformation, because part of this is also around change management. This is a different way of doing business, and that's another key kind of piece of this. We talk a lot about data. We talk a lot about enabling technology, but this is as much as a change management transformation as it is in any of these other things.
Yeah. Well, Tom and Angel, thank you very much for your perspective. I think this concludes our Bar Talk series for today. Thank you everyone for attending. Please grab a drink. Our panelists will be around, and feel free to ask them questions. Thanks again.